I actually agree with Biden on this. Ugh, those words felt terrible coming out of my mouth. Friends, come on in, take your shoes off, have a seat, and consider staying a while by clicking that subscribe button. So on Tuesday of this week, Biden signed the executive order to phase out the use of private prisons. I actually have the article in front of me. I'm going to just read it really quick. Okay, so President Biden on Tuesday ordered the Department of Justice, or DOJ, to phase out its use of private prisons. The executive order, signed alongside 3 others as part of an effort to address racial inequality, largely returns the department of the policy adopted under the Obama administration. To decrease incarceration levels, we must reduce profit-based incentives to incarcerate by phasing out the federal government reliance on private-operated criminal detention facilities, Biden wrote in the order. The order directs DOJ not to renew any of the contracts with private prisons that house federal inmates, roughly 14,000 out of the 2 million people incarcerated in America. Criminal justice reform advocates say the move is an important first step in reducing reliance on private prisons, which critics argue have little accountability and whose models are incompatible with efforts to rehabilitate offenders. So if you guys didn't know, I actually was in law enforcement for almost 4 years. I did 2 different security jobs, and then I worked at 2 different county jails. I will be the first to tell you that our prison and our jail systems are broken. I saw that as an officer, and honestly, this is a whole other video, but like, the correctional officer life is really hard. Like, it's not a fun job most of the time. You're away from your families most holidays. You're working with people who obviously hate you just because they're there, and your bosses get so fed up with it. Like, they've been in the system so long themselves. I almost think that they get institutionalized themselves. Like, I've seen people, my husband included, because he worked as a confinement officer with me for about a year. I've seen good people turn hard as stone. I've seen good people stop caring, and I've seen good people completely flip their personality around because it's a dark place. That's a whole nother video. I don't want to get too off topic here, but just that being said, I just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people don't agree with their tax dollars going to inmates or going to the federal jail system or prisons. And I'm here to tell you that it's not just for the inmates, it's for the officers. And at bare minimum, if you don't care about the inmates, like if you think that they committed a crime, whatever, they need to serve it. Some inmates, I'm like, totally. There are inmates in there, that's again a whole nother topic, that are in there because they forgot to pay a parking ticket and they got 6 months in jail, which is a whole nother topic. Our entire system is just messed up. But at bare minimum, if you don't want to care about the people that are incarcerated, you do need to care about the men and women who are risking their lives every single day to keep offenders behind bars, to keep you and your communities safe. That being said, why in the world am I agreeing with Biden on this order? Well, he wants to completely get rid of private prisons, and I agree with him because private prisons are a terrible, terrible place, both for inmates and officers. If you didn't know, private prisons are for profit. Like, their main goal isn't to rehabilitate people. It isn't to keep their officers safe. It is solely to make their bottom line go up. It is solely to make more money. That means that there are very little, if any, safety regulations at this place, you guys. I've talked to other officers who have said that some of them don't even have smoke detectors. Some of them don't even have a health inspector come in and check their kitchen. Some of them, like, bribe them. Like, if you don't think this happens, it does happen. And unfortunately, it happens to people who are perceived to not have a voice. Like, they are people who like I said before, that you don't really care if they have a voice or not. And unfortunately, a lot of abuse happens in those places. I've also heard that a lot of confinement officers are told not to even go into the inmate areas, which means the rate for sexual assault goes up, the rate for inmates just, getting hurt goes up because there's not enough officers, or the officers are being told to not go into those areas. These people that are incarcerated are someone's mother, someone's sister, someone's brother, someone's uncle, someone's grandma. Like, somebody loves these people. And yes, they committed a crime, but it doesn't mean that they don't have basic human rights still, and that they shouldn't be treated like a human. And, again, a mean-hearted person would probably be like, well, they murdered someone, so they don't deserve to have that. I can agree to an extent, but also, as being a Christ follower, there has to be mercy in there. There has to be grace. God looks at that person no different than he looks at you. So to me, as a Christ follower, I have to do the same to a person. And honestly, a lot of confinement officers like to go into a facility and act all big and tough and act like, like they're so much better than an inmate. And the truth is like, at the end of the day, like, you're just a person just like them. At the end of your life, you both are going to be buried in a box in the ground, and that's going to be it. You're going to meet your maker all the same. And so I just think, for me, I always try to treat everybody with dignity when I was a confinement officer. Even though I did get scrutinized for my bosses for that. That's, again, a whole nother topic, but there's really good officers who try to do the right thing, and they're being scrutinized. Flip side of that, in private prisons, they obviously don't want to take the time and money to train an officer correctly. So an officer maybe will get a few days of training, and then they're just pushed out on the floor. Again, if you guys don't care about the inmates, at the bare minimum, care about these people who are taking care of you. It's so dangerous not to have training. It's so dangerous not to know how to deal with mental health issues. It's so dangerous for that person to be in a situation where they aren't properly trained to protect themselves. And it does happen on a daily basis. Officers do get jumped. Officers do get put with an inmate who is completely out of their mind, and they've never had training on it, and they have to deal with it. And if that was your loved one in there, if it was the inmate, like, wouldn't you want a trained officer to care about them? And again, at bare minimum, wouldn't you want your son or daughter who's working there to be safe and know how to protect themselves? Also, the pay is horrendous in these places. We got paid more at my county jail than what most private prisons pay their officers. And if you know how the quality of workers is, you get what you pay for. So if you want inmates taken care of, if you want your loved ones taken care of, or at bare minimum, you want your son or daughter who's in there, if you want someone to have their back that has good qualities, we need to be paying these people better. Officers are the backbone of prisons. The prisons would not run without them. So why are we not paying them more? Obviously, in these private places, it's because they don't want to hash out the money, and it makes it a super dangerous situation for both inmate and officer. If I still haven't convinced you to care, think about this. The reincarceration rate is at 65%. That means 65% of the people who go into the system are going to come back into the system because they're going to go out, commit another crime, and get put back in. That means that it affects you. That means that there is going to be a criminal who went to jail, who got sober, but didn't learn how to be sober. So they came out and are now selling drugs, or they're now high on something and could potentially harm you or your child. There is, there's an alcoholic who went to prison, did their time, they got sober, but didn't learn how to manage it. So they came back out and are now drunk driving, and they hit your kid, or they hit your grandma. Like, as much as you don't want to think it's your problem to help people, or as much as you don't want to think it's your tax dollars that should go for her rehabilitation, it is, because in the long run, it affects you, and it affects the safety of your communities, the safety where your family is living. This is probably the only executive order I will ever agree with Biden putting out. And I think that the crazy thing is that our systems are so broken, and executive orders are only good for 4 years. That means that if Biden doesn't get reelected and some other president comes in and says, hey, I like for-profit prisons because it makes me money, put them back up. That puts crime back into your neighborhood. that puts you and your family again at risk. So for me, I have actually sent an email to my state representative saying, hey, this is something I'm behind. What can we do in our state to get the ball rolling more? And I really want to encourage you guys to do the same thing. Like I said, you don't have to like Biden. I don't like him, obviously. You don't have to agree with any other order he puts out there, but I do think that this is one that we should get behind. I do think this is one where instead of having for-profit prisons, we should really put our tax dollars into counseling places and rehab places where people can go and get better and actually be productive citizens of society. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys give this video a big thumbs up. It's free. It only takes a second. It really helps this channel out. Also, give me a thumbs up if you guys want me to continue to make these videos. I know you guys have shown interest in hearing more about my confinement officer life, and either leave me a comment or give me a thumbs up to make me aware that you guys like these types of videos, and I'll see you guys all in my next one. Bye!